You see, I can't actually believe they're doing this. Look at this Wakefield Council, right? Don't miss the latest episode of the Regeneration Show. Brand new episode going out on tonight. Listen on live on Rhubarb Radio. Want to catch up? How can you have a regeneration show? To me, that suggests that the development and regeneration of the town centre, which the government give planning and consent for, and which they're not allowed to influence any electors on whether they support or oppose that, it seems like the council themselves, on their own website, are actually advertising that show. So, Wakefield Council itself has a Facebook page, right? This is Wakefield Council. This is the government. This is Wakefield Council itself. For Wakefield Council to promote a show which is pro-regeneration, which is suggesting it's advocating it, encouraging it, and even getting people to listen to it. Hey, look, there's some burgers here, Do you like fast food? Do you want some hot dogs, Are you interested in burgers? What kind of burger do you want? The regeneration show is like, this show is about regeneration. No, it's not called that should we not bother regenerating or not. If it's the regeneration show, it's about regenerating, so that means they're going to be doing it. Right? There's no option not to do it. This is where it's all gone absolutely and totally corrupt. I mean, I worked it out from when the councillors have got this selflessness policy. You can't have a council operating on a selflessness policy when they're voting in a chamber on things, when you can't have party control of the council. And when it operates like a court, essentially a court judges every case based on the evidence presented in that session where they vote. The idea of strategic planning and saying, setting down a load of plans and saying, right, we're going to do all this. Each time you vote on something, you can't vote on something until you've seen like the evidence for it. What's happening with these councils is that you've got all these architects, universities, developers, players, people with money, not the citizens. The citizens don't have money, not the average citizen. People who've made money out of the citizens, right? And they can't do anything unless they get consent. And Starmer wants to make it easier to build when they've already... I've just been reading now that the Luddites, right? It wasn't all just about machines and technology and taking the jobs away. The Luddites was about minimum wage. And there was a massive petition with hundreds of thousands of signatures to Parliament to raise the minimum wage. Because people were getting paid less and less and less when previously they were skilled. And they wouldn't raise the wages up. And that's when they started smashing the machines up. And some of them got hung. I think it started in Nottingham. But Parliament changed loads of laws around petitioning and advertising petitions and so forth. But I read some Hansard from Parliament, and they did have a crime problem in urban areas because they were talking about it in the Hansard in the House of Lords, and this was around that time. There was a massive explosion of crime in the urban areas. Now, I think that was to do with a lot of machines and wages not being very good, and obviously they petitioned for fairer wages, and they never got it. And, if they had have got it, and if they'd have made everyone prosper, not just corporate company owners, particularly these ones now they've all been bought up, and now they've got trillions at the disposal, as Charles says, I don't think crime would ever be that bad. But now, they added to that, I don't think the English crime level would have been that bad, but now they've turbocharged it with all this immigration and so forth. And they definitely are trying to attack the constitution of the country, which the constitution and the Act of Settlement is meant to be that any aliens coming into the country, and that's what it's worded in the law, in the constitution, have got, they become naturalised, but we're at the rate of immigration, they're not actually becoming naturalised anymore. And we're also therefore losing our ancient customs, which are protected in law, and religion, and they're having a multicultural society. What they're saying to us is accept all these other religions and accept all these things, because if not, then you're racist. If you don't accept them in, there's something wrong. You are discriminating. But what it's actually done is it's actually diluted the religion and the customs, like, juries and so forth. And then when you get people like Priti Patel in the government, they don't have the same idea of what the law should be. And they actually start legislating against the customs illegally, like Sadiq Khan with the Liberties of London for the ULEZ and so forth. And then what we've also found is that all these big corporate companies have all been bought up by one entity, like BlackRock Vanguard. They're all putting these policies now where you consent, submit and accept to their laws and rules, which aren't even the laws of the country. And they're also operating from abroad. I mean, I wanted to send a complaint to Microsoft on a big poster to get their attention because, if you speak to customer services, you can't get a complaint through headquarters. And then they've got all these, complaints forums and boards, which, no one even, that's not going to get anything done on there. Not to headquarters. So I wanted to send a big letter, a big poster complaining to the Microsoft headquarters, right? So I bought a poster on eBay the other day, and I put the delivery address to Microsoft headquarters, and the guy's like, he cancelled it and he refunded it, and I'm like, what have you done? He goes, I can't send it to that address because it's not, the machine's not accepting it, that prints out the tickets for delivery tickets. So Microsoft removed themselves from the main, when you buy postage, right, you can't put their address in. One main rule of the radio shows, actually speaking of radio shows, I think it was Resistance GB, they were saying that, to be officially recognised as a news channel, you have to actually have an address so you can take complaints. You have to have an address, you can't just be anonymous, That was one of the main things. If you haven't got a proper address, people have got to be able to write to you and so forth. Microsoft have an address, but you can't even send anything to it. Now, if you're in America and if you're with the modern digital age and you're going with all these, click and drop website type things and that, you can't do it unless you write it out old school in pen and then stick some stamps on. They're actually making it so you can't even send mail to them. But they're the ones who are setting the rules that where you've got to have an actual address to be contactable for complaints. I think it's getting like Judge Dredd, when they've got that big city, and how they've wove it, how they've sewed it and woven it is like they're doing it like, from America. If you're in England, it's all cross-weaved from country to country. They're the ones who are controlling and dominating your communications, right? But they're operating for another country. So it's hard to get them into court. You can't go there or anything. They're effectively operating as if they actually are on these, like, Elon Musk satellites orbiting, around the Earth and so forth. It really is concerning. And then they've got all these weird telephone messages. They've got some really odd, peculiar voices now on the answering machines, right? When you phone your doctor, or really most places now, they used to have a nice warm voice, a recorded message, and now they've got it on AI, and it doesn't sound right. It sounds odd, and some of them are quite patronising and, in fact, a bit weird. And I think they're doing it on purpose. They're definitely doing it on purpose to make you get used to it not being a human, but they're doing it in a really odd and weird way, which I think is patronising. I think it's very eerie, patronising, and odd, like, like the Blade Runner film or something like that, or like Prometheus or something, It's odd. I don't like it, what they're doing to us. But how can I bring this back into the council now? Well, basically, right, I realised with our council, right, at Kirklees, I realised that when they were doing the blueprint for the town centre, they just had it up everywhere. And I'm like, what are all these adverts for? It's really like making it look like everyone is going along with it, like everyone wants it. Like, they've got the rugby team sponsored thing on the buses, sponsored thing. I'm like, there's lots of people who oppose this, and there are massive groups that are complaining about what's been done, and just like literally their mouth, jaws to the floor, just like, what the hell are they doing? And then they do a consultation and they don't even have to act on that, which effectively is a petition, right? Or even like a referendum. It's like a local referendum. So they've managed to worm their way out of that. And I know that blueprint for Huddersfield is influencer marketing from the council. It's designed to carry the public along with it, get them to like it. And also in your mind, it actually looks like they're doing it whether you like it or not. And the whole thing, all of it, not just part of it. And they're meant to vote on each part of it and consult on each part and then get approval for each part. They're doing it like a package. Like, you vote for Labour. Labour Party are doing this whole list of things and that's the package, right? But in a council, it's meant to be like Mr. Johnson is going in the butchers, he's applying to expand his butcher shop, or Mr. Smith's going in to change the usage on his property to a different usage, right? Or, Mr. Smith wants to extend his wall or whatever, and you have to look at the evidence. But that's meant to go for the things that redevelopment as well, right? When you've got a plan, a strategy, you're actually strategizing ahead. Who's strategizing? Who's planning it? Well, if the council are planning their own town centre, they're getting architects in. What do the people have to say in that? Not really anything. And then you've got these contractors who are like, oh yeah, all these big companies who are all owned by the same shareholders. Oh yeah, we're getting these all over the country now. This company goes, oh, we've got a new type of, street decor, right? And that company's like, and shares in, the Kier or whoever who's actually got the contract for the council, who are the highways department. Oh yeah, we're getting these in the whole country, and then they just put it in. It's not actually the voters, really. They're on a back burner, the voters. It is actually corrupt. There is an election propaganda rule that I definitely know that MPs are breaking it, because they're on their own MP channels, which are meant to be government. This is like, for purposes of government, they're actually doing videos that influence pro-Conservative or pro-Labour Party and opposing, but it's declared for Parliament, right? That's actually illegal. It is criminal at the moment. Just hold on a second. I don't know if I took a screenshot of this just in case I can't find this page again. This is from 1779, Mr. T. Luttrell and Mr. Wilkes in the House of Commons sessions. And this effectively, this piece of writing, this is what the Representation of the People Act, which was, it's a lot later, that's like, we're talking like 1920s, the Representation of the People Act. But the election propaganda clauses in those acts, it is literally, you could have took it straight off this, because this is the principle it's based on, that law for voting, right, and advertising. But this is what they said in 1779, right? And remember, this is 1779, not even into the 1800s. That is highly criminal. Highly criminal. We're choosing the words here, right? Highly criminal. In any minister, but then it says, and this is really important, any minister or other servants of the Crown of Great Britain. Well, that's police as well. Because in the Representation of the People Act, you've got election propaganda by police officers who might influence the outcome of elections or voting. So if you're putting out election material for a party or against a party, and then they remove it, then they're actually influencing it. Now, if that election material is there unlawfully, it's actually unlawfully affecting an election, and you actually need to bring an election petition, because that means that people are influencing elections unlawfully, right? And if it's on a large scale, like it definitely was in London for this mayor election, you can actually call you can call election into serious election interventions, which the Conservative Party were making use out of these big ULEZ groups, which had 500,000 people behind them in order to try and influence the elections. So police includes police, local councillors. The thing is, right, a candidate is trying to get elected, right? Once they're elected, they're in the government, right? And that's their job. So they are not really meant to get involved in any more elections because they're in the government, right? They're serving the people. If you've got a political party headquarters, right, with a party leader in a headquarters and staff, and then, you've got candidates, as those candidates get elected, then they don't want to be helping in elections, because, the party headquarters is meant to help people get elected. Now, I know that a political party headquarters has got policies and so forth, and, but we're talking about helping in elections. Once they've got someone elected, then they aren't supposed to promote or advertise or help or influence the elections, because they're actually in government, right? And this includes a local council. There's been loads of local councillors who've been acting to influence other elections and things, which is illegal. And the Election Commission aren't doing anything about it. I've complained to them loads of times. So, it is highly criminal of any minister or other servant of the crown, directly or indirectly, to use powers of office. That's any office, including local council, in the elections of representatives to serve in Parliament, and an attempt at such influences will be at all times be resented by this House as aimed at its own honour, dignity and independence, as an infringement of the dearest right of every subject throughout the empire, and leading to a sap in the basis of this free and happy constitution. Well, this also applies to anything that is going to be voted on or consulted on, right? Anything that's going to be voted or consulted on. Because this here, they've called it it's a regeneration show. It's all about regeneration, and the council are promoting it. So it's like we've got regeneration and that's what we're doing, and this is the show for it. It's not like, okay, well, it's not having... There has to be an option, right, that you don't have to have regeneration and you don't have to approve building or planning, right? And this is going against that. It's not even an unbiased stance. This is like all chips on the table. This is like fully cashed in on the gambling board, right? It's like all chips on regeneration. It's not on the middle of the line, in the middle, saying, right, shall we regenerate or not? Or shall we pass planning or not? In the consultation, are you for it or against it? It is, when it's called a regeneration show, then you're having regeneration because that is the menu, right? It's like having if they give you a breakfast menu, what's on it, like regeneration, well, what do you want? We're having breakfast. We're having breakfast. Do you want, bacon, egg, sausage and tomato or an omelette? It's not like, well, maybe we won't have any breakfast. Maybe we won't have breakfast. No, it's like you're having breakfast. Here's a menu. What do you want? Here's any regeneration. We're doing it, right? I think that it is illegal because there was legislation I've read for anyone commissioning anything in the council, also, if they make a profit out of it themselves, right, they've got to stand down if they're making a personal profit or asset. The thing with all these highways departments, particularly Care, is that they're making decisions now on deciding whether to repair, upgrade, change highways or plan them for what profits the company can make or business, or even, it's based on money, proceeds. It has gone illegal. I mean, and now they're just trying to make it feel like, oh, this is how it is. This is normal because of social media, because they're so relaxed with it now, because it just feels the norm and it's all the latest technology. Doesn't mean that it's lawful. And this is the thing with the immigration and the suffering of the juries and the religion and the constitution and so forth. No one's saying that, this is all the young people, right, who are just, got their heads in the headsets and listening to music and going to college, and then they're soaking up these radio shows. It's all sold to them as like a cool package, which in principle of law and basis is illegal, because they're taking everyone along with the ride and just going along. It is literally the Pied Piper just going along with it, in the style of, like, Heart FM or Capital FM or the radio. It is really, really illegal. And what I've found now is that Labour are getting under a lot of criticism, particularly from the sort of middle classes now, all across social media. They're trying to get the young people really sucked up into it and getting them involved in it as if it's like a college or university campus thing or radio show. Have a say in it. Have a say. Come on, young kids. Come on the Regeneration show. It's literally like saying, come to McDonald's. You can have a free Happy Meal, or what do you want? You can have. We're doing this. But we'll let you have a choice. On how it goes. But we're doing it anyway. Not. Instead of having the split decision in, shall we or shan't we, right? They've removed, they're erasing the option for not doing it, right? Getting rid of that completely. And then the only option in front of you, instead of, shall we do it, yes or no, they're taking the no away, right? So then they're splitting the yes into options of, right, we're doing this, which option do you want? Which is effectively what they're doing on YouTube and Facebook when they do the question and answers, answer some questions for us. We'll give you the questions and then we'll give you the answers. It's this whole philosophy that's come down all the top from Microsoft and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. It's part of the whole staff training, staff grooming. There's no negotiating as a human being. It's all policy, and training, right? And then you end up with I'll go and click and drop and send a letter. Oh, you can't send it there. It's not on the system, so you can't send it there. They're off the grid. And all the time, right? I know this conversation is going a little bit on and off, right? But I'm keeping a general theme here, right? They're saying they want facial recognition and surveillance and sat-nav tracking on, every human, right? And they want, everyone's details and addresses and the government and finances and everything, right? So no one can live off the grid. Everyone's got, getting rid of cash. Everyone's got digital transactions so they can track everything. No one's going to be living in the woods in a log cabin like, Commando, Schwarzenegger. No one's off the grid. No one can, be in society without their mobile smartphone, their digital ID card, right? Yet, Microsoft are now off the grid. They're taking themselves off the fucking grid. Right? Don't speak to my hand because my face ain't listening, right? Don't send an email here. We're going to make sure the law says that, all radio programs, to operate, they've got to have a physical address so you can send complaints in, or it won't be classed as a proper radio show, right? Or proper news program, right? They're making that law up to make every radio station so you can write to them and complain, right? Or it's not a proper news program. Yet Microsoft is taking themselves off the grid. Don't send an email here. Don't write to us. And it's hard enough to find the address when you type it in anyway. They've taken it off the system. It doesn't exist. You can't go there. No one can go there. Unless you're Mr. Beast, rocking up at YouTube headquarters because, you're the main show. But anyone else, don't turn up there. These campuses, these places are literally like fortresses, castles in the sky. And they're pumping out all this weird influencer tech on us. And they're putting themselves off the grid, right? So, don't go there. You never mind turning up, angry and annoyed with what they're doing, and you want to say, look, can you stop doing all this weird stuff with the computer program because it's doing my head in, right? Don't go there. There is no choice now, except for this, this new generation, which are, win, holidays to Bora Bora, win a car, win some money, keep buying the Skittles and the Smarties, and this whole commercial radio thing, the council have absorbed into it now for all these young people, and now they've got God knows what, the next pandemic's going to be. Everyone else is dropping off. There is going to be no voting. There is no option now. There is no yes and no option. They've slipped the yes and no option away, and of the what's left in front of you, yes, it's like, okay, shall we go red, yellow, green, blue, indigo, or violet? But that's it. We're doing this, and you can, have a little bit of choice on the colour. That is it. And this is the problem with the Fabians, with Tony Blair and Nick Clegg and the other Knights of the Realm, mechanisms of implementation, and they're getting away of the right, the right to petition, immunity and protection, all the ancient customs, which is effectively like, your yes, no option. They're getting with all the, and then no one even knew all these options or things were there. And, this whole, what I don't like about it is they made us look bad. If you, if you don't, if you are sexist, or if you are, racist, or, whatever Starmer's saying, anti-Semitic or whatever, like, Jeremy Corbyn, right? Or whatever he was accusing Corbyn of, right? There's something wrong with you because you're not accepting these religions in, right? But what were you left with is what they actually need to do is they can't do what they're wanting to do with those ancient customs in place and the rights because it stops them from doing it. So they've got to dismantle them, right? And then when they've dismantled them, we haven't really got any rights or anything. And this is what all this accept, consent, submit, agree is. And unfortunately, they're such good salespeople to the young, unsuspecting people because they've got the pop music in their earphones. La, 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 I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. And Simon Cowell and the rest of it, the game shows, the whole thing. That these people who, they're young, they're healthy, they haven't got any diseases or ailments at the moment, right? Everything is going all right. They've got friends, they're young, they play the video games, they put the metaverse on. When you don't have a problem, right, then everything's happy. There's nothing wrong. Everything's okay. And when you're young and innocent and unsuspecting, the older people who are like, just a minute, what's going on here? Neil Oliver and, Tucker Carlson and Russell Brand and so forth, are just a minute, what's going on here? You're taking his options away, right? That's the difference. And I think this is why Tony Blair prefers, young people. It's really why you get a lot of older guys like MPs and older men who like younger women because they aren't as intuitive or they're not as they're not as experienced or as intelligent necessarily as older people. You get a lot of older guys who prefer usually younger girls, particularly for their office staff and secretaries and things like that, usually because they're easier to mislead and misinform. But yeah, it's going to be us who's doing the misinforming, right? So, what Wakefield Council are doing, it's against the basic principles of law. And it's kind of too late now because they're already doing it. And in our town, it's all demolished. They're just demolishing the thing. And there wasn't really any option or choice. Those consultations were meant to be acted on, and people didn't really want it and weren't really too keen on it. And we've been scammed. And then where's all the money coming from? And then Starmer's putting the prices of all these things up. But they're blowing all the money. How are they even doing the demolition work? All this money's been allocated for this. If we don't spend it on this, we won't have it at all. Well, then people won't be having to pay all these fuel allowances and so forth that are taking off us and putting the company's house, registration up by fourfold and other things like that. I won't mind, but these kind of like young woke radio presenters, they are, they're having a ball of a time. I'm all right, Jack. This is cool. I'm a famous radio presenter. Whoop-de-doo. What's wrong with this? This is great. I've got 100,000 fans listening to my show. We're talking about the latest cool things that you're having, whether you like it or not. And you can win some money. Go on holiday to Bora Bora. What is wrong with this? Look at my shirt. It's so cool. I'm really popular. I've got 10 million fans. How could this be wrong? How could there be anything wrong with this? Because it is, in the basis of law, criminal. There are loads of people who don't agree with it, don't consent, don't accept, and don't think that it's cool. But, what about in the south? All these Dorchester and all these other places. People actually like their town, and it doesn't need to be redeveloped. There are so many places in England, in the south, where, they're actually proud of it and like it. I like this. Why would I want to change it? Why does it seem to be like in the north of England, they don't like where they're from? I did like it, but it keeps getting demolished all the time. This is illegal. And this is illegal like Rachel Reeves's website. And Wakefield Council is a Labour council. And this is they're doing here what they're doing with Rachel Reeves. And Rachel Reeves is breaking the law. It's a breach of parliamentary privilege. More so than any of these arrests that have been on Extinction Rebellion or Just Stop Oil, right? Rachel Reeves is breaking the law. Keir Starmer was pushing assisted suicide, which is against the sixth commandment of the main Jewish core religion, 10 Commandments. You can't get any more anti-Semitic than erasing the 10 Commandments. Yet, I complained to Starmer with Labour, nothing will be done about it. It's worse than Corbyn. Whatever anti-Semitism Corbyn did, right, what is the core of the Jewish religion is the 10 Commandments. And Starmer is going against the sixth one, when, John Major already, wrote off Sundays for peace and quiet. These people really don't know what they're doing. And the contempt they're in when they want to be other opponents. And they use these things like anti-Semitism to remove their opponents, right? And then they go do something completely worse. And if they can reflect on that and see that there's something desperately wrong with them, They must be that unintelligent to even know what they're doing when they're doing it. Which, how can Corbyn have really been, know what he was doing if he's doing it? But Starmer, I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't really realise that they were anti-Semitic. But it is. So you'll have to stand down. Corbyn had to stand down. That's how you play it, we'll judge whether it's anti-Semitic or not, and then, you'll have to stand down and not be leader anymore. This is the thing with Starmer, you might as well, I'm starting to think now that, it's like, the ironic thing with Parliament is it's almost like a court, but who's on trial? Where are the defendants? Well, it is Starmer defending the entire Labour Party and Sunak defending, the whole Conservative Party. I think they're prosecuting each other. But then again, they're all criminals. I think they're all on trial. I think that I think this actually is a trial, and I think that after the Labour Party and the Tories are all guilty. And I think that, Starmer, I don't know who's defending and who's prosecuting, but one thing's for sure, I think they're all guilty, the whole lot of them. I think Starmer, he can defend himself and his party, but, we're calling the crimes now. It is a trial, and the entire Conservative and Labour Party are the defendants. And that's the irony of it now that, Starmer, Chief Director of Public Prosecutions, right? He was anti-Semitic. To the assisted, you can't get any more anti-Semitic than assisted suicide, which is a core attack on the core principles of the Jewish religion. If he's just going to blank that, then, it's ridiculous. And as for all this work, how they're doing it as well, it is just, to the kind of doing it with this, like, really, it's cool, it's trendy, it's the latest thing, Facebook, right? It's the basis and principle of it is illegal. But I don't really know what we can do about it. What can you actually do about it when they're just doing it now? These are actually meant to be councils with elected people and staff. And I don't think that, just recording a video like this or anyone's going to stop it. Because, it's like Starmer. They're on a mission and they're not playing by the rules. In fact, they're actively they're pretending that there's nothing wrong with it. So they're either really, really stupid or they're really, really criminal. And it can only be one or the other. They're either really, really criminal or really, really stupid. And I don't think that, Neil Oliver, Russell Brand, and so are... what can be done? It's actually a new culture that's taking over, and they're using the youth, the young people, to carry them on kind of like a wave so they can just plough ahead with it and nothing get in its way, And there are actually a lot of people complaining about it, but they're just being completely and totally ignored and blanked, which is literally like Microsoft headquarters, and it's all to do with training. This is the thing with TV, it's all applause, they get the studio audience in, they all clap, they make it look like everyone likes it. It's produced like TV. It is effectively like a TV game show where they get the people in who really like it, might be a small number of people in the studio audience, they make them all clap, they do loads of exciting things, and then everyone at home is just like, not everyone at home is going along cheering, far from it. There might be a core number of people who like it, but they make it sound and look like everyone else likes it. And they don't. You've got people who are either indifferent or people who are really opposed, and those people get filtered out and blocked out. So that's effectively what the local council are doing now by doing this. This is the same it's the same strategy as what they're doing with those TV programs with the studio audience, but that they're getting all the young people along with it in this regeneration thing, selling it that, it's, rubbish, boring town, old buildings, cobbled streets, all these things. Some places are just not on that wavelength at all. They're like, this is a brilliant place. Why do you want to change it? Short of being bombed like Plymouth, it's